First News with Keeler in the morning on WIBX and WIBX950.com.
This podcast is sponsored by Ramp. Are you the decision maker in your company? Consider this. For the first time in decades, there's a better option for a corporate card and spend management platform. Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management system designed to help you spend less money so you can make more. Most corporate credit cards offer points as incentives, but those points amount to less than their worth in real cash value. Ramp's business cards offer you cash back, real money in your pocket. Plus, you control who spends what with each vendor. And Ramp's software collects and verifies receipts automatically, which means you'll stop wasteful spending and close your books in hours instead of days. Businesses that use Ramp add up to 5% to their bottom line the first year. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp for free. Just go to ramp.com/easy. Ramp.com/easy. RAMP.com/easy.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank, members FDIC. Terms and conditions apply.
Tonya J. Power standing by right now. Another story that's kind of incredibly interesting is a national story that involves Britney Spears. And I think it's very easy for all of us to kind of push this aside and say, oh, it's crazy Britney Spears. But it almost seems that that's what her father wants everybody to think, so that he can remain in control of her life and her money and her life and her whether she gets a haircut or not, for God's sakes. Tonya Powers is on the line right now. Tonya, good morning.
Hey, good morning.
So I guess when I first looked at the story, this is really the first time we've talked about the Britney Spears story, and I just kind of brushed it off as being crazy Britney Spears. But when you dig in a little bit, it does seem like, how is someone able to take control of someone's life the way her father has been able to take control of her life? How is that happening in 2021?
Well, yeah, exactly. And that is a question a lot of people have been asking. Some people have been asking this question for years. Other people have really kind of picked up on this since the documentary, the Free Britney documentary came out. I think the New York Times is the one who put that out some months ago, which is quite eye-opening in itself, and will give you a lot of the backstory about what's been happening and how we all got to this point. But yeah, I mean, keep in mind, Britney Spears will be 40 this year. I mean, that's
yeah.
to me, that's sort of like a key part of this. I think a lot of folks just sort of have been thinking of Britney Spears as this, 20-something pop star who, had this public meltdown, and they said, okay, well, we're going to put your dad in charge of stuff. Remember, this whole time, she has not been, locked away in a closet not doing anything. She's had a successful residency in Las Vegas, for heaven's sake. I mean, she's still been earning money that pay all these people, which is not a small part of it either. So, it's not just that she's not capable of handling anything and can't, perform or carry on her business. That's still been all going on, which sort of, it sort of begs the question, well, wait a minute, if she's still out there earning money and out there providing jobs for all these other people, whose best interests do they have? And that's kind of the question that's come up. And a judge has now allowed her to hire an attorney of her own choosing. Remember, she had a court-appointed attorney this whole time with the conservatorship. So this wasn't somebody that she had picked out that said, okay, you're going to have my best interest at heart.
Right.
This was somebody that was appointed to her. So now she's just now been able to get an okay from a judge to pick her own lawyer. On Wednesday, there was a hearing. She appeared by phone and told the judge that, okay, I want this guy who's a former federal prosecutor to be my attorney. The attorney has now called on, Jamie Spears, her father, to immediately resign as the conservator. His lawyer, the Jamie Spears lawyer, is like, yeah, this is not necessary. We don't need all of that. As you would imagine. But, she took, like I said, Britney took part in this by phone and asked, to address the court and said, she said, my dad needs to be removed today. She even wants to see him charged with abusing his position and investigated. Wants the conservatorship over immediately, which is what she said a few weeks ago when she addressed the court with that powerful Zoom appearance that went on for like half an hour. That people were like, Yeah, she really doesn't want to do this any longer because up to now it had been kind of a question. You know, is she sending messages through Instagram? Is she trying to tell us all something? And a lot of people said, yeah, we don't think that she wants to, do this. This is not a voluntary thing. And she said in court, no, she wants this over with.
So how is this done? How is this done legally? So the Guardian, I understand a conservatorship is necessary when Britney Spears was underage, but then she becomes an adult. Did she then sign it over, or they convinced the court that she wasn't mentally stable? I mean, how did this continue after the age of 18?
Well, she wasn't underage when it started. This has been in place for 13 years. Like I said, she'll be 40 this year. So she was, in her late 20s at the time, mid to late 20s when all of this started in the first place. Did it start because they had convinced the court that she was not mentally stable? Yeah, apparently that's how the whole thing. That's how the whole thing got started.
Boy, doesn't that take you back to pre-1960 when if a woman wanted a divorce from a man, he would just say she's crazy. They'd throw her into a mental institution. She'd get electroshock therapy, and she'd come back a little less of a human being. But she wouldn't be able to escape, if you will. It's kind of like that.
There are a lot of women who would tell you it sounds very familiar to today, except just without the electroshock part.
Yeah, wow. Wow. And it does seem like that's what occurred here. Wow.
Yeah, she's been under court supervision since February of 2008. I mean, think about that for a minute. If you were put in a conservatorship in 2008 and still expected to go earn your money and pay your employees and do all the other stuff that you're doing, at some point, you might go, this arrangement doesn't seem like it's necessarily working. And that's kind of what she's saying here is that, she wanted her life back. She wanted to be able to make her own decisions and make her own, choose her own lawyer, be able to do the little things that she outlined in court that she's not allowed to do. Jamie Spears' lawyer, on the other hand, says no, she's been able to, make more of these decisions, and she's kind of, she didn't say she's overblowing the whole thing, but basically she's, obviously hired by Jamie Spears, and so she's doing what she's hired to do. Yeah. But the whole thing is just quite stunning, honestly.
Well, and that the reason she cut her hair off was because the conservatorship said that she couldn't do it. It was bad for the brand. So she wanted to have control, so she went out and she cut all her hair off.
If I had $1 for every time I'd cut my own hair after, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've not personally cut my own hair, but, it is not.
You want to be able to have the hairstyle you want to have. If you want to, dye your hair purple, then I guess you should have the right to do such a thing.
Now, I'll admit, I wish I had a conservatorship sometimes with the decisions I've made with my hair, but, hey.
Well, I mean, the whole thing boils down to, if someone needs help for mental illness or, if something's going on in their life and they are exhibiting symptoms of something that is clearly a departure for them and clearly they're struggling, that seems like the part of this that wasn't addressed as much as it was in a legal way, as it should have been perhaps at the time in a health way. And that may have changed the whole game at this point if that had been seemingly done at the time. I don't know Brittany, I don't know Jamie, but I'm just saying, it seems like there might have been a different way to handle all of this where 13 years later, she's not still, having somebody else is not making her own decisions. And she can't say, okay, now I want to put a stop to this.
Okay, very, very interesting. And you do wonder if there's a gender bias here in society because, we named off 4 or 5 guys that probably aren't considered all that responsible, yet they have the ability to do whatever they want in their lives. These are celebrities from, Mike
Tyson to Charlie Sheen.
What's the basketball player that went off to meet Kim Jong-un? Dennis Rodman. I mean, think of the number of people that you'd question their sanity, yet they have complete control of their lives.
Well, I don't think you have to question if it's a gender thing. Honestly, it's like you said. It's if a guy does it, he's quirky and eclectic.
Right.
Yeah. If it's done by somebody like Britney Spears,
we have to protect her. Yeah.
And really,
there's we got to lock this down. We got to make sure that she's not out here, choosing her own hair color. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
the craziest thing she really did was the Vegas wedding. But in all reality, she woke up the next day and was like, "Oh my God, that was a mistake. I've got to annul this thing."
Well, who hasn't said that in Vegas?
Right. It's the Vegas thing.
I mean, I'm kidding about that part, but it kind of, like I said, it kind of goes back to the larger thing that this is not just about a celebrity's conservatorship. This is about, one of the things this is about is how it is seen legally through the eyes of the court. Okay,
right.
You're quirky and eclectic. You need help. There's, you know what I'm saying? There's a much bigger picture here at work, not just a court proceeding.
Who's the?
It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Who's
next.
the actor that married Elvis Presley's daughter? That was obsessed with Elvis, and then they ended up splitting up. He's another. What's his name?
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage
he's another one I thought about.
People believe Nicolas Cage is nuts. He is so irresponsible with his money. He's blown all of his money. Every time he gets money in his pocket, he blows it. Buys crazy stuff. Buys stuff for everybody else, and ends up broke. One could state that we need to step in and protect him from himself, but we don't do that because he's a guy.
Well, I wonder though if it was one of his parents stepping in requesting this. When you say we don't do that, I mean we're just the general public. I wonder if a spouse or if a parent was.
But
still
even
alive,
to Tanya's point, imagine
intervene.
if this could happen to a celebrity like Britney Spears. Imagine it to
anybody.
Joe Blow down the street.
I was going to ask this, and I thought we were trying to let Tonya go, but
I think we are.
Okay. I'll ask it when Tanya's going.
Okay. My guess is you got to go, Tonya, but we appreciate your long time with us here this morning. Thank you
as always.
Anytime. Thanks,
Have a great day.
Well,
we'll argue this off the air on our own. But
what I was going to say is, you see in downtown Los Angeles all these people living in this tent city, right? And I've heard this argument before, and I'm not going to try to repeat it because I'll do a terrible job at it. But essentially, you have people who live on the street who, if they were taking their meds, that they have a hotel room that's available to them, and we can all argue, are you better off sleeping on the street or up in that hotel room?
Or a shelter or anything.
And if they were taking their medication, they would be a functioning part of society and all these other things. But I've heard the argument before, look, they're free people. If they don't want to take their meds, if they don't want to sleep in the hotel room, you can't make them. And I just wonder why that's the attitude in that situation. But with this...
Well, maybe the difference is that Andrew brings up is that, or whoever did, it is... that there was a family member that stepped up to try to go to court to protect her. And maybe that's the difference from her and everybody else. But you're right. We can't make them help themselves.
Right.
We can't make them take their medicine. So that's why these people are living out on the streets. We can't make them correct their problems. But in this case, the court ruled that we can. Or
you can't make your own decisions for yourself.
Yeah, it's really something. So I kind of thought it was a ridiculous story to get into, but the more I got into it, the more it seems like it is bigger than one person, and that this may be a gender issue. We look at women differently than we look at guys. Charlie Sheen, nuts, right?
Yeah.
I know his family was trying to intervene, but there was no court that came in and allowed that to happen.
Let's look at one other character we all know. Why the hell doesn't Gallagher have a conservatorship?
That's a very good point. Yeah, because he's destroyed his...
You want to know why? He doesn't have any money. All he had when he came in town was the Q-tip that was sticking out of his ear and a box of T-shirts.
That's a very good point. However, Andrew's point is well taken here, because there was a point when Gallagher was the most famous comedian in the country.
Yeah.
He was the highest earning comedian in the country. But he fought with everyone. He argued with people. He got fired. He finally went off and did everything on his own. But you're right. No one stepped in and tried to make him do the right thing.
Squandered.
He definitely squandered.
Yeah.
And now he has nothing.
Now he squats.
Yeah. And he squats.
Squatted the money.
In
now
listeners'
he squats in homes.
homes.
It's crazy, crazy, crazy.